Alright, I think we're recording right now. Let's go ahead and jump into it. Oh, it's a test video! What's happening? I'm Nick Fights, I'm here at Lead Base Studios, and I'm just testing out my setup. I've got HD Twist webcam aimed at my surface, which you can see right here. If I come back, I've also got a creative webcam. I don't know what model that actually is. It's up on top of my monitor right now. And so I'm only just recording right now as a test. This probably will not be going online, but I'm going to go ahead and do this. And just in case I do post it online, let's give you a little something. Here's some inking practice. Something I do for practicing inking. Now this is just going to look like I'm wasting paper, and that's exactly what I'm doing. Because I don't care about this paper. This is scratch paper, paper you can get rid of. But all I'm going to do is start replicating motions, just lines. You can start off with just straight line dashes. You can do shorter and then graduate to longer and longer and longer. And even as I do this, you can start to see the power of line work and the illusion it sort of creates. It's almost like I'm creating a walled corridor that keeps coming closer and closer and then further and further away. And I'm trying to just force my hand into making fast dash marks. And if I was to zoom in real close, you can see there's a lot of imperfections in all of that. There's a lot of wiggle. They're not dead on straight. But I'm just warming up my hand as well as warming up my inking thought process. The idea that if I'm going shorter, I'm going further away, and if I'm going longer, I'm coming closer, so there's a little bit more of a space. And if I wanted to really amp that up, then I can force myself to focus on doing that, where I start off really, really tight, and as I get further and further away, it's a longer and longer stroke, but it's actually spaced out from the last one. So it really does create that illusion of something or a surface going further and further away or coming closer. You see how it almost kind of looks like maybe there's a wall, and maybe there's a strong overhang here, and then maybe the wall curves out again. Maybe the bottom of the wall comes there, up into the foreground. Part of the other things I like to do is I like to work with curves as a warm-up. So I'll start one curve and curve the other way. And then I'll try to get it to the point where these are not really a corner, where I'm just sort of doing it smoothly. And I'm just opening up my hand, I'm just loosening up my hand. And the reason I'm doing this with a Uniball Micro is because I don't feel any friction on the paper, unless it's drying up, in which case when it's drying up, any pen is going to give you friction. Normally I ink with a micron pen, but using a Uniball Micro while I'm warming up allows me to just waste ink that I wouldn't be using on a professional page or a commission. Micron ink, or sometimes my Copic inks, I'll save those for a professional commission, and therefore I don't want to waste them on my warm-ups. As you can see, this is just getting out of hand, but I'm replicating pretty much the same shape. And I can go the other direction too. The key I'm trying to do is picture the movement in my mind. Picture it on the actual paper and then follow suit with my hand. The reason for that is when it comes to inking, yes, in a way we are tracing a line. We're tracing a line we already put down or another artist already put down. So if I took my time creating these lines here, as a penciler, we could spend all the time we want with this and sort of throw it down lightly, just kind of hen scratch it on there. As an inker, you could take your time with a French curve, which I don't really have one to access right now. I've got a big one. There you go. This is French curve. Anyone who doesn't know what a French curve is, Google it or YouTube it, or someone's got a video elsewhere explaining how to use a French curve. But if you work yourself into being able to do it freehand, you save yourself a lot of time. You don't have to line up the curve. You also provide a bit more of an organic look to the artwork, because it seems like it's just as hand-etched as when the original penciler penciled it on there. So that's the style that you're kind of going for, and I could recreate this line by doing it one piece at a time. But as I do that, just here in the middle, you could start to see the little bit of dark dot there from where you start and stop. It gets just a little bit thicker because of that start and stop. Every time your pen comes to a rest, ink bleeds out the nib and into the surface, and it gets a little bit larger than had you would have just popped it. And you could tell right there, without even zooming in, this one's a lot larger just because I left it there. And then this was just a tap. So minimal amount of surface contact, minimal ink left there. You leave it pressed on the surface, ink just sort of floods out of it. That happens when you come to a stop because your pen actually slows down, rests, and then lifts. So that'd be like in super slow motion, that example. It comes to a stop, rests, and then lifts off. The little extra time leaves a dab there. So when you set it down and then go to continue, that same thing. It sat there for a second before your hand started accelerating. It leaves more of a glob there. So the key to getting it to go all in one motion is to picture the overall flow and then just own the curve of it. And even if it doesn't match it perfectly, as long as you capture the energy that the pencil laid on there. And sure, if this was a professional piece, I would be very disappointed in myself for missing that badly. But the end goal, let me just do one more. Say this is like someone's hair or a lock of hair or something. This is normally where that'll come in handy. Flowing clothing, hair, rippling fins on an aquatic character like in the Brine, plug by Lead Bay Studios. So the key I'll do here is just keep the pen moving. And I got a bit more accurate, but you can tell how much clunkier that was. I slowed down and it got clunky and there's almost corners in it, whereas this one's nice and smooth. It didn't quite fully match the original pencils. I matched the pencils a lot closer here, but I slowed down to do it. And that's what you end up getting. If you slow your pen down, you're going to notice all kinds of different jerky mistakes, be it in our breathing or I'm busy talking. That'll do it. So training yourself to be able to do it all in one motion is going to get yourself a much smoother line without trying to do that start and stop. So another thing I like to do for the sake of working with curves is I'll designate a starting point and a stopping point, and I'll start elsewhere and keep trying to bring it to that same stopping point, like all the lines are converging in the same spot. So that's more inking practice that I'll do. So I'll do something like that, and now here will be my ending spot. I'm going to try to replicate that same curve elsewhere and bring it into that same spot. Almost like recreating scales, or like the scales, maybe layers of flower petals or something. But I'm just loosening up my hand. This is basically like stretching out for an athlete. I don't really care about this, whether or not it looks good, whether or not it looks bad. What I'm really doing is using this as an excuse to move my wrist. I'm generating an imaginary goal just to sort of test myself to achieve that goal. And I'm doing it kind of at a fast pace because I don't want myself to rely on, let me go slow and get the line exactly. I want to almost ignore the pencils when I'm inking. I want to get the idea of where the pencil line is, and then I want to improv on top of that. I just want to do my version of that line. I want to say that that line is going in this slight arc right here. Well, I want to put my version of that arc down so it happens all in one stroke. It's not clunky. And it comes off as much more organic. There's no corners, there's no elbows in those lines, just smooth curves. Even if the smooth curves vary, they add a bit of life to it. If it was too exact, it'd look robotic. Or in this case, it almost looks like one of those beaded necklaces that you'd get out of a quarter machine. So this is just a test video, and I hope everyone enjoyed themselves. Hopefully you guys will come back next time for more videos when I have a proper setup going on, and especially when I've got a better like logo bump over here, maybe one that goes the full length of the actual screen instead of just to there, and maybe even my main waiting screen, maybe something that'll actually fill the whole screen beyond just my plug for Grand Rapids Comic Con this year, November 9th. Hopefully even something for my Kickstarter, maybe a plug for my Kickstarter, because currently right now the Brine by Lead-Based Studios is live on Kickstarter here May 23rd, 2018. So it is live. Go to Kickstarter.com, look for the BRINE Issue 3 comic book. You should find it. There's also a link on my Lead-Based Studios Facebook page. There's a link there as well. Follow it up. It's up for a month. Feel free to share it from Twitter, Instagram, all sorts of other different social medias. Get the word out there. Help us out. Gain new backers. I hope to really grow my audience. That's my thing. I want to gain more readers. I'm not really interested in the profit or money. If you look at the way we sold issue 1 and 2, only sold them for like $2 each. We aren't making any money. But we just put it out there. We made it a feasible goal to acquire at a convention. Everyone's spending money on different pop figurines and stuff and kind of blowing out their budget just on hot dogs and soda. So we made our comic book competitive by being only $2. It's a black and white book anyway. It's more independent, more of a graphic novel approach. It's not so much capes and tights, but there are capes. And the characters do look like they're wearing armored tights. But it's not that genre of comic book. It's more of an adventure comic book. So there's a few sample pages up on our Kickstarter right now. If you take a look, take a sneak peek. If you like it, start backing. Become a backer today. Thank you very much for your time. It's been a test video. Hopefully this video will be worthy of being put online. Bye-bye.